Hello, everyone. Nice
Hello.
to see everybody here. We've got your global copywriting and marketing team here. I'm Christine Potter. I'm located in the northwest of the United States. Mark McRae, the Scotsman who is now down under in Australia. And Brad Nell, our Canuck in California. So notice how I did that? All those nice alliterations and little phrases.
Well
Hope you remember.
Yeah.
I'd like to say hi to some of the folks that are here. Paula, really good to have you back. Hi. Martin, hi, nice to see you. Oh, Arlie, yes, you made it. Awesome. Nice to see you, Arlie. And William, cool. Jean's back again. Excellent. So we have a lot of stuff to cover today, and it's some of the most important stuff that you need as a copywriter. And some of it is going to be words on the page, the things you need to know about language. But really what we're going to go through today are how to get the Jenga blocks, no matter what niche you're writing for, no matter what the offer is, how to put the Jenga blocks together to make it so that you can literally sell anything with words. And we've got a pretty good program for you. We're going to move pretty quickly. And one thing I want to make sure of is if you don't have a way to type it up on your computer, bring up a Word doc and be ready to do that, or have pen and paper handy, because this stuff's going to be noteworthy. We will put this up on our YouTube channel and link to it in the Facebook group. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, I'll have information for that for you at the end of the program, that you'll be able to go and review this and see the other ones that you may have missed, okay? So what we're talking about today, and I teased you if you were in the Facebook group with that pyramid, but I changed the pyramid. We are going to talk about, let's see if I can bring this up in my correct form. Yes, please. There we go. All right. We are going to talk about your 5-step blueprint to sales. There are 5 steps that if you execute them properly, virtually no one can say no to you if you're talking to the right group of people. Okay. So what we're going to show you how to do is make that sale imprint in any market. And be sure to ask questions. Put them up in the chat here in the webinar. I will look at them and note them. If we use them on the webinar, we will send you your own copy from Amazon.com of Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins. It is one of the Bibles of modern copywriting. Okay. And we'll give you the information on how to claim yours if we use your question at the end of the webinar. All right. Like I said, make sure you've got something to write with or you're ready to type, because you will want to have these 5 steps and the examples ready to go. All right. So here's the pyramid. All right. There are 5 steps. Technically, you could get away with 4. But that 5th one up there at the tippy top, it's the icing on the cake that makes it virtually impossible for people to not pay attention to you. What we have are finding their pain or their dream, because an unfulfilled dream is painful, right? And their pain is, it could be anything. We'll get into that a little bit further. Solution, how you're going to stop their pain or how you're going to help them reach their dream. Testimonials and proof. And there are several different kinds of proof depending on your niche that you can utilize. And we're going to show you how to do that, because that is one of the most powerful things that you can use to make your case about anything you want to sell. Then there is your pitch, which is sometimes referred to as the offer, the proposition. It's basically where you tell them what they're going to get, how they're going to get it. And then that number 5, the unpublished secret. Something that Gary Bencivenga in particular talks about it. as a particular type of secret. Don't want to step on Gary's toes. So, but something that you've never seen before, that's brand new, what it is that makes what you're selling different, okay? So we're going to break all of these down. Plus, we have our own little bonus section in this as well. So, gentlemen, anything you'd like to add to this first pyramid slide?
I don't think so. I think that the pain dream portion of that, if you benefit or talk about the pain point and the dream at the same time in your copy, especially in your headline, then it kind of does double duty for you.
Yep. Anything to add, Mark?
Sorry,
I'm going to just...
Sounds good. No, go ahead.
Okay, all right. All right, so here are those 5 steps broken down so you can take notes on them. Pain dream, pledge solution, rock solid testament, also known as proof. Your pitch, also known as offer, your unpublished secret or unknown discovery. So, number 1, pain or dream. Now, this is a paraphrase. I've heard it many times, but David Franklin, who's one of our senior copywriters, has regularly said, nobody wants an aspirin before they have a headache. Okay, a thing where you're selling prophylactically in case of is much harder to do than this is the big bad hairy monster that's living under your bed right now, and we've got the spray to eradicate him. Okay, and I'm going to show you a great example of playing up that problem, and it's also a really great example of what Brad talked about with the headline. And it just happens to be Brad's work. So Brad, I'm going to hand this over to you to talk about the power of the problem.
Okay, so the thing we talked about in this email was about how the economy is. It was pitched to people that are afraid that the economy is collapsing, the dollar is going to collapse, the markets are going to collapse. There's a growing sentiment amongst certain people that the government's not going to be able to protect us. And so I was trying to really highlight that fear here in the headline, and at the same time offer a solution. And the email was written not just to people that are already aware of the impending apocalyptic times, but for people who maybe weren't educated about it. So it was a fairly long email. But as you can see, we've got an image in there that elicits an emotional response immediately in people. And yeah, so there's a benefit, and the pain point is hit really hard. I think those are the 2 things that really shine with the headline.
Okay, anything you'd like to add, Mark?
No, I think Brad's got it pretty good there. You know, it's like all of the things, it's that first few seconds there, you know, if you trace the history of the internet and retention rates on sales pages and visuals, you know, 10 years ago it was like 10 seconds, and 5 years ago it was like 5 seconds. Now the average retention rate is something like, or how quickly people make a decision, is 3 seconds and under. And if you think about how long 3 seconds is, it's like 1, 2, 3. They've made a decision. So you got to catch them with that, you know, a decision with your headline or your image. And there's different ways of doing it. There's a thing called eye gravity as well, where images are placed, where depending on what you're trying to achieve, you'll have more readership with when text is under the image rather than above it. But in this case, this works well with having the headline above the image, because they can take it all in one view, which was perfect.
Now, one thing that you can also do if you're using images, and we will have a future webinar about using art, graphics, and images, is you can sometimes, if you've got the right piece of art, overlay images. And I'll be showing you a couple of examples of that too. Now, this was just the top of Brad's email. This was the headline and the first image that hit you. Now, this was written last year.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how incredibly prescient this looks now. If somebody opened the email that was based on this or got to the sales page that was based on this, right now, what's happening? Particularly if you live in the Western world, stock market's crashing and crashing again and crashing again. And is North Korea going to nuke the United States? Is the United States going to nuke North Korea? There's a great deal of uncertainty in every way. And if this offer's still out there and you've got, for you guys that are watching, you're driving traffic to this, they see this and they're like, wow, I need this right now.
There's an interesting side note to that as well. There was a discussion yesterday about in the prepper market, now that Trump's president, the interest in the prepper market has dropped dramatically. And when Obama was president, it was at its height. And the discussion was, why would that be? It didn't make any sense for it to actually go down with Trump at the head of the country, but that's what's happening to the prepper market right now. Sorry.
I have a theory about that, but it's not probably for this place. So that is a great bit of the idea behind the headline and making that problem big. You don't get much bigger than a mushroom cloud. Okay, that's like the ultimate in problem. And what you do then in the top of your copy deck, which for those of you who don't know, it's the first third of your email or the first third of your sales page, is you build up that problem while also showing them the solution. Okay, so what we're going to look at now is the pledge and solution. Remember I said nobody wants an aspirin until they have a headache. So you wait until you've made sure you have made their headache into a migraine. And then you go, hey, have 2 ibuprofen or a couple of baby aspirin, whatever works. It will relieve their pain, suffering, worry, or contains that slam dunk, unpublished secret that could solve problems they hadn't even thought of yet. Now, the way you can roll both of those things into one coherent thing in your deck copy is to tell a story. Now, it's got to be a story that is immediate and speaks to people. So it can be a story about you if you're writing this in the first person. It can be a story about someone you know. If it's something where someone's done something that cost them everything or made a mistake or had a terrible accident, it's always best to either make it be about you, the writer, or whoever you're writing for, or a third party. Because you don't want, while you want that person to identify with that pain and think about their own pain and suffering, if you tell them that they have problems they don't have, you will lose them. Right. And also, if it's something where they've made a mistake and you're going to point out how terrible that mistake was, then they're going to feel like they're dumb. And you're not going to sell anybody that you've just made to feel like they're stupid.
Yeah, and just to kind of rewind that.
Smart.
Sorry. Just to rewind that a little bit backwards for a second, knowing that that's a pain point has to do with knowing who your prospects are. I was just writing a thing today, and I was reviewing a lot of notes and just talking about what your prospects need, what they want, what they desire, and what they're afraid of, what keeps them up late at night. You've got to do really good research to uncover that, and that'll tell you what the pain points are. Yeah,
and that leads into something that we do a lot of on the marketing end with scientific copy for our clients is market research. And there will come in future episodes, we will talk about how you find that market. We'll give you a little of that today, but it's pretty, I mean, we can get pretty complicated if we wanted to, about how to find your market, how to break it down from what we call the looky-loos to the people who are genuinely interested in what you're selling. Perry Belcher has famously said, I don't want everybody. Forget that. I just want the people who are going to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so finding those people, not just finding the wide umbrella of everyone, finding the decision maker, and then finding the decision maker who actually wants what you're selling. That's the important thing. Okay. Anything you'd like to add there, Mark?
No, I'm going to speak a little bit more. You know, one of the reasons why the problem and the solution is so important is if you can imagine two Eagles supporters, because the Eagles just won the Super Bowl, didn't they?
They did.
Walk into a bar and they don't know one another, right? As soon as they start conversing with one another, they're going to immediately start assessing their depth of knowledge about that team. And as soon as they realize that they're both on the same page, you've got the beginning of a great conversation. So the person who can identify more with the problem than the next writer is the one who will probably, you know, have the better result. And sometimes what we'll do is we'll look at a good place to look for that if it's an unusual niche or a niche that you're not familiar with is to look at Amazon reviews, find forums about that niche and become a member and listen to the language because they all have their own language as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the ways that you can identify each other is when you talk in abbreviations and in the language of that particular niche. They know that you are one of them. You can share that pain. So that trust, and we'll talk about this when it's my turn to go about that trust, how important that is for people to make a decision whether they should or shouldn't buy.
Yep. And one last little thing about that, and I don't know how familiar anybody on here is with Gary Bencivenga, but if you haven't found the Bencivenga bullets online or maybe taken advantage of his insanely expensive yet incredibly great program, one of the things that he famously discusses is you can't think like the fisherman. You got to think like the fish.
Mm-hmm.
The fish wants the shiny object. The fish is hungry. If you're the fisherman, you're thinking about where do I go for the fish? That's market research.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're inhabiting the brain of the fish, it's all about getting the thing you need. So another nugget of wisdom. All right. So this is an idea of a pledge, okay? That you're going to get the secret that could double your money in the next 5 to 6 weeks, making an average of 2% a trade nearly every trade. Now, obviously, this is for the financial market. Okay, this is aimed toward people who trade stocks, options, bonds, currencies. There are products that we represent for certain clients. It's one of our biggest niches, actually, is finance, which, just so you know, is also one of the hardest niches in the world. Mark must be a little bit of a masochist because he likes to get in there and just get beaten up and take them all down. And he's succeeded for a very, very long time with a number of financial clients. But it's a hard nut to crack, especially depending on your price point. And this is a claim that's really big. If you're a trader, saying that you could double your money, make 100% on your money in under 2 months, and make an average of 2% per trade, which if you know anything about trading, 2% per trade, if you're starting on a $1,000 account and you use the power of compounding, would literally, if you left your money in and kept doing what you needed to do, would potentially get you to like 1.2 million, just under 1.2 million.
1.27, I think it is.
Yeah, 1.27 or 1.19, I forget, but it's in just a little over 2 years. So if you know trading, you know all that. So we're speaking their language, that 2% to trade nearly every trade, doubling their money. The amazing thing is that in one particular segment of the market, it's not that crazy a claim, but it's a pretty big one. And when you make a claim like that, the thing you have to be able to do is pay it off.
Mm-hmm.
So the promise, if you're going to make a promise, you have got to prove immediately after you make it that you can pay it off. Okay. So that's where your rock solid testament and proof comes in. Now, there are lots of different kinds of proof, and Mark is going to talk about the statistical significance of some of that in a couple of minutes. But testimonials, depending on the niche you're in and legally what you're allowed to do, testimonials are fantastic. Results statements. If somebody takes real before and after pictures, you know, say you've got a skincare product and it completely obliterated their crow's feet. If you can get legitimate before and after photos and a statement from them that your product did X, Y, Z, that's fantastic. Okay. Social proof is another thing. And that's one of the things Mark's really going to talk about, the significance of what people out there say about you, whether it is local people talking or online. Okay. And here's an example of measurable proof. Okay. This is from an email that we sent on a financial product. And the trader shared their statement that showed that they made $3,614 in 8 days. Now, if you are a trader, this is like porn. Okay. This is catnip. There's no way you're not going to click that link to go see how they did it. What was their starting balance? We left just enough off that curiosity requires them to go look, because they don't know what the starting balance was. They don't know what the average lot size necessarily is, et cetera. There's a lot of technical things in this. And it makes the trader go, ooh, I need to see how they did it. Okay. This is another one. Talk about porn for people in the finance niche. This is a product that we've been repping for a few months now, and this is an actual trade video that if you clicked on this in an email or on the sales page, it would bring up an actual video shot in real time of the trader making $825.12 on one trade. Pretty awesome proof. When you can do that, when you can get it on video, it's the best. Then you have real testimonials, okay? People that you can verify. When we talk about the finance niche, and a lot of these examples are from finance because it's what's on my brain right now. A lot of the finance niche things, we have very strict rules, and it doesn't matter if you're in the health sector, if you're in the beauty sector, you're going to have laws and rules that you need to be aware of with regard to the kind of proof you're allowed to put out there. Your shopping cart provider for your sales page, in many cases, will have some very specific do's and don'ts there. And if you are using social media, if you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, if you're using Instagram, there are other standards and practices for that. That could just be policy, and some of them are based in law. And you need to know, based on where you are in the world and what it is you're selling, what you're allowed to do. Okay, so it's very important that you know that. Now, in this case, this is somebody who worked with a particular trader who got really, really good and became a professional trader working in a fund. So this person went from, ooh, I like to do this sitting in my pajamas at home, to now I get to go to an office every day and trade other people's money. And not only that, had an excellent 5-figure earner in 2007. So that's really strong in our niche, because again, thinking like the fish, right? What's the fish want? They want money. And in this particular case, they may want to do this professionally. And maybe they don't have the time or the interest in going and getting a degree or working their way up the ladder. They want it, and they want it fast. So this is a way to dangle that shiny object in front of them. It also helps that it's all true. And that is the other really big thing. You can't make these things up, guys. It's so tempting, I know. To be like, oh, somebody said XYZ to me, and I could rewrite that and make it kind of sound like what they said. Unless you've got the proof sitting there to back yourself up, making testimonial statements without the actual proof could bite you in the patootie like you would not believe. So make sure that when you're using this, and solicit them from people. Get out there and ask people, hey, do you mind? You said this great thing about me. Do you mind if we put that on our website? We won't, and you don't even have to use their name necessarily. The best of all worlds, though, is if they not only agree, but you can either use their photo or you can get them on video saying it live.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get them on video, that's the best thing in the world. Okay, so there are a lot of different kinds of proof, and these are the main proof. But then we're also dealing with social proof, with word of mouth, with Yelp reviews, etc. And that is where Mark comes in.
Okay. I was looking at this from marketing charts, and you'll see here that the most influential forms of advertising or trust is, number one, is recommendations from people I know. And if you look at the proof that Christine has just shown you, and it might be a video, it might be a statement, it might be a testimonial, the weird thing is that if a stranger stands next to you and demonstrated something live in front of you and proved to you 100% that this thing worked, people would still prefer the opinion of a friend or a family member because they just don't trust you, right? So the number one way to sell something is that recommendation from people who you know. So the way around that, or the way that to achieve that goal, is to become their trusted advisor. So when you're writing emails, it should never be, and we've had many conversations about this, just pitches after pitch after pitch. The communication that you use, regardless of whether it's social media or email or however you do it, has to be educational. There has to be a reason why that person wants to read your email every day. And if all you're ever doing is pitching to them, then they won't open the email, right? So there has to be that something, that spark of interest, that you have to be talking in such a way that they want to read what you have to say. The next one you'll notice here is consumer opinions posted online. And if you've ever bought anything, or you'll probably find that you'll go look for reviews. You know, like we're in the market for a bed right now. So one of the first things we did was reviews on this make of the bed or the mattress that my wife's interested in, because people trust other people more than they trust marketers, right? So the number one thing is to, you know, if you've got a friend, then they'll move on to other people. And only when you get farther down the funnel do they actually listen to people who are talking to them. So ads on TV is interesting, and is another big one. People still trust TV at this stage more than they do things on the internet. And I think one of the reasons for that is a lot of the TV ads are grounded in offline businesses where people can get to them. So if there's a problem, they know where to go. Branded websites, ads in newspaper, then you've got emails that you signed up for. Just 1 second. And that's kind of where one of the websites and emails is where the online marketing comes in. So if you're marketing to a group of people, the number one job of you is to become their friend, is to become that recommended from people I know. So it's like your best friend recommending something when you recommend a product, which is hard if you're recommending a product every day. But there's still got to be a level of trust, and that can be gained by, you know, credibility, and that you're perceived as an expert in that particular niche or market. That they know that you've tried it. They know. In the old days, when people used to recommend product, they used to hold the product up, they used to unwrap it, they used to say, look, I really do have it. And if you read manual on page 54, you could tell that they had some connection with the product. And even that's gone today. But just remember, when you're selling something, that everybody uses the tab system. So if they're looking at buying a pair of shoes or an MP3 player or whatever it is, they go to the next tab and they research. You know, they'll go to Amazon, they'll go to reviews, they'll look for things. And the next slide, hopefully it's the next slide.
Hold on. Nope, it will be. These are some examples, just so you can see of.
We'll come back into it then.
Social proof. So I'll go here. Is that what you wanted?
Yes. So again, here, this is the number of reviews read before trusting a local business, but it applies to nearly all marketing. You'll see that the light blue is 2015 and the darker color is 2017 last year. And most people will look at something or review something 2 to 3 times, or you could say between 2 and 6 times is the biggest chunk. That's the 80% part there, where people will go, that's how much effort they will do before they make a decision. And so if you look at that, say 5 times, there's 2 parts to that. One is that's how much effort they will put into looking for different types of reviews. And if they're unfamiliar with the topic, they'll look for things that look like are real people talking about it. They're getting real opinions, and they'll go and try and find 4, 5, 6 different opinions and then make a decision. One of the other interesting facts that I haven't seen here is that people are taking longer to make a decision, but once they make a decision, they tend to stop looking and they trust that company longer than they did before. As an example, I was looking for some multivitamins, and I researched 3 or 4 different companies, and there's a company called iHerb, I think it is. It's local here in Australia. It might be worldwide, I'm not sure. But once I'd made my decision, everything I buy that's vitamins is with that company. I've stopped looking. So, you know, gaining trust is very important, and that's where Christine was talking about identifying with the pain and the problem is such a big part of that, because people, when you're speaking their language and you can identify the same problem they have, it takes you, 50, 60% of the way there as far as trust goes. Yeah, do I have another slide there, Christine?
Let me see what's next. I can't look in advance, so we'll see. No. Okay. The rest of yours comes in another minute, I think.
Okay. Good.
Backing up to this about social proof, when you talk about people wanting to know that other people like you and trust you. Again, financial niche, because this is stuff I've been working on lately, so I had it all at hand. This particular product that we work with, he's got a Facebook group, right? And at the time this screenshot was taken, which was several months ago, he had like 27,000 people following him. He has more than that now, but that's what he had at that time. And also he has been interviewed, reviewed, done guest commentary, etc., for a lot of different places, including Yahoo Finance, investing.com. Now, if you're in the finance niche, to say that you've been on Yahoo Finance, that you've contributed something on Yahoo Finance is huge. It's a very, very big platform for the finance world. So what that little thing up in there in the corner is called is a media splash. And it does not matter what niche you're in, if you can get your product mentioned on the local TV station, if you run an ad in a local magazine or a local newspaper, guess what? You can now say, as seen in XYZ thing, because you were there. And you can create your own media splash. And that can be very powerful at times. These are all things that are social proof. Okay, so if someone's, say, looking at your product online somewhere, whether you're a brick and mortar business or an online business, that media splash, they could go, oh, I'll tab over and I'll see what, maybe there's video of when you were on the local ABC affiliate and you got to talk about what you did, or the newspaper, whatever it might be. That can be very powerful, especially if you link that then to a Yelp review or an online review, or you've got Facebook as a background, whatever the case may be. All of those things work together to create that social proof. And one thing I thought was interesting about that other one that you had here, mark this. Now this is from 2013. I don't know how much these numbers have changed. But one thing that we know is when you're using social media for that social proof, it's kind of akin to your TV ad. Okay, it's the place where people hear your name, see your name, remember. And when you send out a tweet, depending on what kind of company you're in, will determine how many times a day you need to do that kind of thing. But it's like the TV commercial. It's like the really annoying radio commercial, right? Where you can't get that jingle out of your head and you wish it would go away. But by God, you will remember what that product was because it was so annoying. You don't want to annoy people, but you want something that's got that same level of hook, okay, that drags you in. And that's what your social media presence, particularly Twitter and Instagram, things like that, it's very akin to your TV ad at this point. Okay, so while you might not be able to track a lot of direct sales from those things, they definitely matter just the same way as if you have access and you're doing local radio or television or whatever the case may be. Those really matter. Okay, so there's that. All right. Now we have gotten a couple of questions. Let me take a quick peek here and see if there's something that we can answer now or if there are things we should wait till the end for. Well, we share the pyramid image. Yes, absolutely. I'll share the pyramid image in the Facebook group. Was the mushroom cloud image used in an email or a sales page or both? Really good question, Jean. It was in both, actually. And the story of Brad's email is kind of epic. At some point, we will have Brad actually break that whole email down for you because it was impressive. It was so good that it was originally just an email. And we send over 1 million permission-based subscribed emails a week. Okay, so Brad wrote for one of those lists with that email. And it was so powerful that we turned it into a sales page. So never be afraid to repurpose something if it works. And testing is the key. Right? Brad, did you want to say anything else about that since it was your email?
No, I don't think so. I think that when I started writing that, I hadn't really planned to make it as long as it was. I can't remember how many pages. It was like 8 or 9 pages or something.
Yeah, I think it was a 9-pager.
I remember Mark looked at it and he said, "This is too long for an email." Then he came up with the idea that we should maybe try it as a mini sales page. And so that's something that I hadn't thought of and actually worked really well. So yeah, you can repurpose something like that, definitely, like Christine said.
Okay. Wes wants to...
For people who are listening, it's not always, when you do a test in an email, it's not always about how many clicks you get, right? So when you're testing long and short form copy in an email, is what is the objective? Is the objective of the email to get them somewhere, or is it to sell them? So generally it's easy to get people to click something, but that doesn't mean they're going to buy it. And people who read long form tend to have a higher percentage of people who buy. So you know, I think a lot of people do themselves a disservice by having 3 paragraphs because it's easy to write. You have to consider what the objective of that email is. What are you trying to achieve with it? And if and there are occasions where you can just put a buy button in the email because you've sold it so hard, or you've done a good job of selling it. There was something else I wanted to mention about that, Christine, as well. With that particular email, there's been a few emails that have been stand out, and one of the things that we do, even though we've got a lot of emails to cover, is somebody reads every email other than the person who wrote it. And sometimes it will be like a group like this where Brad will have written the email and either I'll read it or Christine will read it or David will read it or somebody will read it out loud like this. And we'll have opinions on it because it's unusual for somebody to write something that's 5 or 6 or 7 pages long where it's perfect all the way through. There'll be soft parts, hard parts, parts where it needs to have more teeth, parts where, you know, that's gone overboard. So that process is a very important process. And I know it's hard if you're a one-man show, to have that, but you can just read it to yourself out loud. Sometimes that alone will help. And the language that you use has to be, you know, people like to try and get smart and use complicated big words, but they don't sell. Because if somebody puts a word in an email that the average reader doesn't understand, what happens is, even though they're reading, the brain has stopped, you know, 4 or 5 words before and is trying to interpret the word that it's struggling with. But then you've taken them out of this magical journey and you've lost them. So the language that's used is very important. That particular email is a fantastic example of a good email that sold well and did its job.
Yep. Wes had a question, and by the way, hi Wes, that the colors in the testimonial from Marina had a bluish background, white text, and red highlighted. Was this tested and found to convert better? Actually, that particular one with the reverse print commits a cardinal sin. In testing, in most cases, you find that reverse type is read less often than regular type. That's part of the reason that the red highlight is there. Because one of the other issues you run into is, unless you are constantly garnering new and fresh testimonials, or if you have one that's just a standout like that one, you're going to want to use it over and over, right? The problem is, if you're sending, like we do, you know, a million emails, they could see it a lot of times and they start going blind because, oh, I've seen that. Oh, I remember that. I remember that image. I don't need to look at this email. So you have to figure out new and interesting ways to make it look like something they hadn't read before. Because it's possible they did skip over it or they didn't remember. One of the truisms of marketing is that you have to put something in front of someone at least 3 times before they'll even remember that they saw it. And in most cases, those 3 times have to be at least once where they hear it, once where they see it, once where they read it. And in something like that, we're only really getting to them in one spot, reading it. So, and because it looks like an image, it's got that kind of either or. It's kind of like an image, it's kind of like text, which is it really? So I committed a cardinal sin with that, but I did it on purpose because I was trying to make it look different. Okay, now another 2 months down the road, that same testimonial could show up in a whole nother type of box. Okay, let's see if there's something else here. Ooh, got a few. Okay, I'm going to move on really quickly to get to the end of the 5 and our little bonus thing before we take more questions. Keep putting them in. I've got probably 3 or 4 here that I haven't answered yet. So we will keep moving. And if I'm not the right person to answer it, believe me, I will turn it over to somebody who is. All right. So now we're to the crux of the matter. You're asking for the sale, your pitch, your offer, right? Now, this includes something that I didn't break out separately in here, which you could almost break out to a 5th pillar, and then we'd have a 6-point pyramid, which is the call to action. The call to action, or the please buy now, or you need this, that is the thing that gets them to go from, this was all really interesting, to, oh, wow, I've got to get my wallet. Okay, so your call to action, you can consider it part of the 4th step in the pyramid for our intents. You could really break it out as its own. So what you're doing is you're giving them the list of what they'll get, how they'll get it. Okay, if they have to click on this button to get it, if you go here now and download, whatever the case may be, all right? And then how it will help you, which is benefit statements. And we're going to do an entire segment sometime in the future just on benefits because they are so very important. But the way to break out a benefit, if you list a feature of something and you can follow it with so you can, like get these new winter windshield wipers so you can not crash your car. Or, you know, drink this beer because women will love you. If you can get a so you can or because statement in there, that means you're showing a benefit. And that's really important, even if you don't word it like that. If you think so you can, or you think because in your head, when you're thinking of that, then that breakdown of what you're going to get becomes much more effective. Now, it depends on the format you're writing this for. If you're writing this for your web page or a sales page, that will be a different format than if you're putting it in an email. Because if you're putting it in an email, you're going to send them to a page that likely will break things down more specifically for them. So if you throw a few bullet points on, you'll get this, you get this, you get this, go read all about it here. That is one way to do it. Or you could get super detailed and list everything that comes with it. The thing you have to be careful of, again, just like your testimonials, at some point people stop reading. If it sounds too samey, if they don't see what their benefit is, that section can get really, it can get overlooked. And it's the biggest, other than your headline, it's the most important part. The what you'll get and how you go about getting it. So, you can't overstate the importance of how the offer is put in. Now, one thing we're going to talk about with that, and this is an example of a recap offer, okay? It comes near the end of a sales page. Again, it's for the same product that I've been showing you a lot of examples for, simply because I was working on a bunch of stuff for it and I had it at hand. I promise I'm usually more varied, but this gives a basic rundown. It gives you a list that you'll get every tool I personally use to trade my own accounts. All of this stuff, it took me a fortune and years to develop. It's my legacy, helping you get rich through trading. I'll hold nothing back. Every trick, hack, and strategy I use, all the secrets that I have, and you won't pay tens of thousands of dollars. Okay, so, and then we lead them on with, and you'll get bonuses. And below that, then you get to see all this free stuff that you get too. Okay, now this comes right after the first call to action, the first buy button on this page. So this is an idea of what a recap of this is everything you get can look like. Okay, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Mark?
It's fine.
Okay. All right, now here's the big question. This I really want Mark to speak to. Do you reveal your price before they hit buy now or not? And why?
Well, a lot of it depends on the product price. So if you're using some kind of tripwire and it's a product under $10 and it's $7, for example, then it's okay to use the price, right? But as soon as you get higher, a lot of our products are $1,000 or more, so you really need to make your case. It's like a lawyer. You want to go in there and you want to hit them emotionally and psychologically and sometimes spiritually, or depending on the niche, but you've got to get all of it out there before you give them the price. And then there's a thing that you would use called framing, where the true value of the product might be $7,000, and you'll list each of those and how you built it to $7,000, and then you'll show them this unbelievable price of $999, for example. That's called framing. And if you've made your case properly, and people don't have a good judge generally of what something should cost if it's a digital product. And I'll give you a bit of a weird example of that. There was I had a fungus in my toenail, and I went to the doctor and she said, get some tea tree gel from the pharmacist. I said, fine. So I went there and I said to the pharmacist, can I have some tea gel? And she said, fine. And it was $45. And it seemed fine. Gave over a $50 note at the time. And she says, you got nothing smaller. I said, well, it's nearly $50. She said, no, it's $4.50. Oh. I'd read the thing wrong, but I have never bought something like that before, so I had no idea. $50 seemed reasonable, but really, somebody who knew that product would have said that's ridiculous. And it's like that. You have to build a case not just for the price of the product, but what the true value of it is. And in many cases, particularly in the financial world, they've got a back catalog which they give as bonuses. So they truly do have a $10,000 product that they're giving away for $2,000 or $1,000. But unless you explain that properly, people don't see value in it, which is why digital products have a much higher refund rate if once they've bought the product, they get to the other side and they don't see the perceived value. And the true trick of a cheaper product, if you're given a tripwire product of $7, is to make that so valuable that it's almost as valuable as the upsell, the next product that might be $50 or $100 or $200 or whatever the price is. There'll probably be not a lot of difference. But when people see so much value in the $7 product, they think, wow, the next product has to be so much better. So should you reveal the price? It depends on the price point and the case that you've made before it. We've had a lot of success saying, here's a $7 product, put it in a subject line. That'll solve your problem. And if it's done right, it can be very successful. The same as, we've found that taking people to a product immediately after they opt in without anything, if it's cheap enough, will have as high a conversion rate than if you talk to them about it for weeks on end, if it's done right. So to answer your question, should it be before or after or at the beginning or the end of the page? It depends on the price point and the audience that you're talking to and the knowledge of that product.
Now, one thing I would recommend is if you're giving something away, no matter your niche, no matter the product, if you are giving something away, something that marketers routinely call a lead magnet, if you're doing that, tell them that. Tell them that right up front. I'm going to give you this today just because I'm a nice person. Go here, leave me your email address, and it's yours. Or, go here and leave me a comment, and it's yours. Whatever the case may be. That is incredibly powerful. And depending on the niche, it can capture tons of leads for you. Okay. So if you're giving something away, let them know that for sure. One thing that we're working on right now is a subscription-based thing, a renewable, that if you break it down based on the price that is normally charged for the professional niche that buys it, the breakdown for the value is actually you're saving 99+%. You're literally paying less than 1% of what the normal ticket price on this is. I don't reveal the price on that until they get to where they need to go to look at that. But that's really huge to say, I'm going to show you something that could do XYZ for you, and it's going to cost you less than 1% of what it would normally cost. Now, that could have a reverse effect and be like, wow, it's so cheap, why? But in that case, you're dealing with the curiosity play to a degree where they may click anyway simply because they want to see what the heck it is that you can get that cheaply. Okay, so there are a lot of ways that you can play with this. And as you can see, we could go on forever about each one of these points and add all kinds of subpoints, which is why we'll be doing more of these. Okay, so let's see. Emir, can you do me a favor? It looks like somebody's got a hand up with a question that I'm not seeing, but I can see the hand up. So if you can check that for me, I'd appreciate it. All right, so this brings us to the tip top of the pyramid. That unpublished secret can be part of your pledge, works really well in a headline, but like we said before, you've got to pay it off. Remember that headline in that Forex product, that trading product that said 2% per trade and double your money in 5 to 6 weeks. That's, we use the word secret even. And that's a very powerful word, secret. Pretty much across every niche, secret. So if you have something, what is the thing you have that nobody else has ever done? What is the thing you've never seen anyone else do that your product or service does? That's your secret, okay? And that can be incredibly powerful. For instance, this is your personal VIP invitation to the world's most exclusive team of trading professionals. Now, it's not technically me saying I've got a secret for you. It's inviting you to be part of the secret. Okay, that you're going to get behind the velvet rope and get information other people don't get. And if you pay that off, that's very powerful. Also, this is an example, see, of the graphic with an overlaid. Now again, as I've told you, test-wise, often reverse type doesn't work. But in this case, you really don't have a choice if you want to put it on the front of a dark background. And this actually has been very effective, this particular one. This one actually is brand new. You guys are seeing it before even our customers do. This is a product that is just being talked about this week, believe it or not. And as you can see, I pulled a cool graphic. I did not use reverse type. And based on a certain investment price point, that based on what its return on investment is, that it would have made $46,261.96 over the last 5 years alone. And we tell them right up front, it's top secret. It's code named the Zenith Point. You know, it's a secret. And then to drive it home, only 100 people will ever get to have it. That's a pretty big secret. Now, we talked a lot about words and language and the word secret and all these different things. Mark wants to show you some specifics. And this is one thing we could do 6 webinars just on language easily. But we're going to do a little condensed version of it for you here. So Mark, this is another graph. I wasn't exactly sure what you wanted to show everybody with this one.
It's something I discovered a while back. And, you know, there's, if anybody hasn't or doesn't subscribe to the Harvard Business Review, they should. It's, you know, such a great magazine, and it's got such great content, and it's online, and you can get the physical products. You know, you get a physical magazine every month, and this is one of the articles that they had, and it's something that Google does called Ngram Viewer, where if you type in a word or a few words, it will tell you how popular that word is over time, and things come in and out of fashion. You know, for example, brilliant, incredible, fantastic are all similar, but you'll see in the 1800s that brilliant was very popular, and it's kind of gone down. People don't use it as much as they used to do. Incredible, fantastic, you know, have been similar for the last 80 years. And just as some words come into fashion and leave fashion, some words are more targeted towards men and some towards women. So for example, when you're writing for the financial market, which is generally 98% male, you would use a different language almost to communicate with them than you would if you were talking to a dating website geared at women. You know, Christine is the expert there. Then you would see that you know, there's different things. So here is something from eHarmony, and it's the 10 most attractive words to put in your dating profile for men, right? So this is what men are looking for, and they'll say things like they're looking, you know, if they're looking at a profile and somebody says physically fit, then 96% are more interested than peers who did not use that phrase. And if you look to the women's side, it would be very low. You know, it would be maybe in the 20 or 30s. So physically fit, 21% for women, right? So they've got a different perception of what they're looking for. And if you go back up again, Christine, you'll see that You've got perceptive, spontaneous, outgoing, optimistic, intelligent, passionate, affectionate, articulate, ambitious. These are all words that men like. You know, they're more solid, they're more easily defined. And if you're, in the financial world, there are some trigger words, keywords, the hot buttons, things like underground, scientific. There was a Harvard study about the top 100 keywords that resonate with men, right? So when you were writing to men, then it would be a good idea to use some of those. Even if you're talking to a group of CEOs, they have an almost different language. And one of the things that Harvard's looking at just now is the language, or the culture of language inside your organization can determine how successful or not you are. And if you just go down, Christine, we'll have a look at how the words that resonate with women for men are ambitious, perceptive, sweet, hardworking. Like sweet, it's not a word that a man would use really. Hardworking, thoughtful, physically fit, creative, rational, spontaneous, energetic. So it's not that they're using different words, it's the priority of them is slightly different. So you have to be aware of that. And that's why it's a good idea to join forums or get involved with the niche that you write for or have a client for. And that's really going to set you apart from other writers. And if you go down again, I think there's another slide or two slides.
Well, I went back there. This is the other one you want right here.
Okay. So, and if I was to summarize everything that was spoken about today, it's whether it's a sales page, whether it's direct mail or an email or even a telephone conversation. In telephone and person-to-person selling, there's a thing called agreement. That great salesmen are always in agreement with the person that they're talking to. There's not the cardinal sin or the thing that you must never do when you're trying to sell someone is try and prove them wrong, or more than they do, or in some way push back. Then you're out of agreement. There's a way to get your point across without getting out of agreement. But when you're telling your story, regardless of the medium that you use, you want to bring them into your story. So it's like a trailer. If a really good trailer can make you click the button to go buy the movie if you're watching iTunes, or sometimes you watch the first 10 minutes of a movie and you think, oh, this is crap, I'm out of here, because they never got you. They never got you. You think the rest of the movie is going to be like this. And it's the same when you're with the written word. And there are hundreds of words that you can use, but one of the things that you should always do when you're writing is you're writing to one person, right? So that's one of the, you would use you a lot. It feels like you're writing to that person if you're using the word you. Now, just telling somebody, imagine, is if it's done in the right way, it puts them into this episodic memory. So if you say, imagine when you were 10 years old and you were running through a field of corn or whatever, right? If the person has done that, you've put them into the state where they're imagining something, right? So now you've got them. And some people call it greasing the chute. Some people call it smoothing the way, or however you do it, you don't want to take them out of this state that you've got them into. And other words that you can use are, there's a book by Robert Cialdini called Influence, and he gives an example of, he did an experiment using the word because, where people are standing at a photocopier and the guy's at the end of the queue and there's 10 people, and he says, would you mind if I go to the front of the queue because I'm going to be late for a meeting or whatever it is. And people are quite happy with that if you give them a reason. And he even took it as far as he had no reason. He just said, because I want to go to the front. And about half the people still allowed him to go to the front because he used the word because. And we're trained that if there's a good enough reason, you will allow them to do things. So, I mean, if you're describing this story and you've put them into this episodic memory and they're remembering things and they've got that warm, fuzzy feeling, and you're saying that this is going to help you because, and you can list your benefits, but you're giving them reasons why it should make sense. So, but that whole journey, that whole trip should be in the language that they know and understand. It should use words that appeal to them, and it should have the speak of that niche. And it should be written in such a way that they never come out of this state of, that you've put them into. You're a master salesman with the written word. And if it's done in the right way, that's great copy. But what I often see is people will start off great, or they'll have a great bit of copy, and then they destroy it by they're being too blunt, or there's a block in the copy, or they're using the wrong words, or it's a shock, or it disturbs them, and then they're back to reality again. Now they're listening for the kids and the phone and their boss and everything else. So great copy should be easy to understand and easy to read, and takes them on this journey. I'm not sure, was there any other slides? Or was that last
just
one
to recap, yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, one thing I was going to tell everybody is, if you're stuck on words, if you're stuck on language, in the online world, it's a really easy way to go about that. There are all kinds of places that will tell you, well, we're going to give you the kind of language to sound XYZ. But in reality, I'm going to go out of my PowerPoint here for 1 second. I'm going to show you this. It's free, and you can go and Google it, thesaurus.com. It's part of dictionary.com. Type in any word that's of interest, and you will get a ton. And it's not just the synonyms. You can ask for synonyms. It will also give you antonyms. It will give you related synonyms and related antonyms. It will give you a whole bunch of potential words that could send you off on a whole other train of thought than the one you had originally considered. And it's fantastic. It's a great resource. And used to, in old school, we used to have a thesaurus. And you'd be very frustrated if the word you were looking for wasn't in the thesaurus. So now you have multiple sites like this that you can go and just pull up any word you're looking for and find another way to make that work. Okay, so don't be afraid to play with that, to play with language. Now, in our case, because scientific copy isn't just a name that we like, it's really who we are. We test everything, okay? And because of that, we play with our language, and we will test, for instance, the difference between imagine and dream, or dream and goal, or because, or so you can. There are all kinds of things that we can test, and we can test down to the most granular level. And playing with that language and being able to test that and see what works and what doesn't can be the difference between, you could see a 10% and even as much as a 25 or 30% change in your conversion rate by just the type of language you use. Now, if you use all of these steps and that language, you know, as long as you have the ability to test it and to follow up, the sky's kind of the limit. As long as you test it and you follow up with it, you can do nearly anything if you have the blueprint and the right language. And that's really what we do. We weave spells and create magic with words. And hopefully our magic is strong enough that people pay money. Now, I want to go back here. Okay, so to recap, we've got pain and dream, solution and pledge, testimonials and proof, pitch/offer, and unpublished secret. Add to that language, and that is really all you need as far as the basic building blocks. To write your own sales page, to write your own effective email, you could write nearly an entire ad campaign just based on these 5 steps and knowing what to do with the language. Now, we do have a couple of other questions here. We have quite a few. So I'm only going to ask to take one more simply because we are out of time. I have a collection of reviews testimonials, and I'm thinking of adding it to my website. I'm using a long form sales page. Any advice on how to insert these testimonials? Should it be a separate page or embedded on the sales page? Phew, that's a really big question. And what I'm going to recommend is, if somebody here wants to take that question, great. Otherwise, I would strongly recommend join our Facebook group, and I'm going to put the link for that up here, and ask that question of me and Mark and Brad in the Facebook group, because it's really involved. Because there's all kinds of things with video pop-ups and photo pop-ups and color, and whether you send them to another page. There's a lot of variables there. Okay?
I've got one more question here from Arlie that I think you drew privately. Well, it says, hi, Christine. You use the term niche many times, referring to the niche market of the client. It is easy to determine the niche market when you may not have a clear vision of who the niche may be. It is easy to determine the niche market when you may not have a clear vision of who the niche may be. And because we know a little bit of your background, Ali, I think the question that you're asking there is, you know what you do, but how do you identify the people who want your service? Would that be correct? I'm going to assume that it is and carry on. And we actually had a bit of a conversation about this. And, you know, we sort of determined that we thought the best way to market your particular service would be direct mail, so that you can get directly to the people who matter. The technology and the tools that we would have available to market online might be so broad that it would cost so much money that it wouldn't be as effective to begin with. But the question is, who is it that you're going to mail to? And the way that would probably work would be with an individual session with you and go through what I would call root cause analysis, or the 5 whys, and find out from your previous clients, you know, who hired you, why did they hire you, you know, what was it for, and really analyze to see if there's some kind of trend there of a group of people who have used your service, and what was the reason? Because the reason will tell us the market. And if there wasn't enough previous clients to do that, then it would be our best guess, right? So we would go through a discovery phase where we try and figure out who that niche market is, and then test. So you test to X amount of people. If you're going to send to 10,000 people, you might only send to 1,000 people, just try and get some feedback, and then take it from there. But yeah, that would be the not the blockage, but that would be the challenge in your particular circumstance, is to find the right group of people to talk to. And once you find that right group of people to talk to, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can try and market to them. But I agree with you, finding the right people to talk to is the challenge in your case. But there's lots of people like that. There's lots of niches. There's lots of things like that there where you would have to you know, be a very particular group of people. There was somebody yesterday who I was talking to who has a biometric thing, a piece of equipment that works at a quantum mechanic level that will tell you what's wrong with your body by placing your hand on it. Now, that's going to take a lot of thought to figure out you know, the best place to market that, but you know, that's the things that are interesting. I hope that answered the question, Arlie.
Yeah, and Mark, I actually spoke with Arlie yesterday evening and gave him a very broad scope way to go about doing that, which kind of set what he had thought what the conventional thinking was, kind of set it on its head, rather than going to the lowest level person that he thought that he should get in touch with to shoot straight for the top. That because having somebody at the top hand you the document or the direct mail piece and say, figure out how we hire this guy. Well, that becomes a directive from the boss. Instead
I'll give
of
you a quick thing that we did at one time. In every country, I mean, there's, I'm thinking of in America, there's a group called Visage. And that group has the largest group of CEOs in the world. And I think there's 18,000 CEOs who are a member of this group. I'm sure it's called Visage. Anyway, we had something similar here, and there was a guy who wanted to get to that group. And what I proposed to him was, for that particular thing, is that the groups of 15 people get together and have a conversation about how they can help each other's business, but they have to hire a room or a hall or a hotel or a conference room. And we worked with that person, and he agreed to pay for the room as long as he could make a pitch for 15 minutes before they started their conference. And that was very successful.
That's a great idea.
You know, so there's, but you want to try and gather a whole, you know, a lot of ideas and then go for the ones that make sense. You know, get it down to as many as you can, 100, and then get that down to 3 things that you're going to try.
All right, so if you, hopefully you got down the Facebook page. If you just go to Facebook and search Scientific Copy, you'll find both our Facebook page, and then you'll find the group. And once you click to get in that group, you will be seeing me, Mark, Brad individually. We are available in that group. Okay, it's what we do. If you would like to see previous webinars and any of the bonus videos that you've missed, I don't even remember, is this number 4 or number 5 in this series? I can't even recall right now. We have a YouTube channel that you can access. Again, search Scientific Copy on YouTube, or copy and paste this little link right now if you have the opportunity, and you can go check it out. Also, if you go to our main website, the YouTube videos are all put up there as well, and we do share them on Facebook. If you want to talk to us about improving your profits, then you can drop us a line at scientificcopy.com/client. If you want to learn how to be a copywriter, if you want to do what we do for a living, and my joke is always work from your pajamas, although it's not always that big a joke, you can hit us up at scientificcopy.com/learn-copy. And we will be happy to talk with you. You'll also find our blog on our website, which can be kind of fun. Some little bits and pieces in there. Now, if you asked a question, like, let's see, I think I had Wes, and we had Arlie, and I wrote down some other names. Hit me up at Christine@scientificcopy.com. Make sure you've got both C's in scientificcopy.com, and I will get the information that I need, and we will ship you your own physical copy of Scientific Advertising, which is one of the great books for copywriters and marketers of all sorts. I apologize. I know there were probably half a dozen questions we weren't able to get to, but as you can see, we've already gone over an hour. And there's just too many things that we could do. This is why this has to be a series. So if you have any other questions, by all means, hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on YouTube, drop me an email. Perfectly fine. We are there to help. It's what we do. Okay, so guys, we hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Hope that it gave you what you wanted. And if not, let us know. And we will be doing this again next week and every week. So make sure we're on your calendar, because there will be more. Anything else, gentlemen?
Guys. Nope, that's it.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Bye.